Welcome to another episode of Galactic Ambassadors Podcast. My name is Julia Balaz, joining you from Ireland, and today I'm introducing Kirk Ryan Brandon as our certified Galactic Astrology soul reading practitioner, joining us from California, USA, right? Welcome, Kirk.
Yep. Hi, welcome. Thank you.
Pleasure. Kirk actually got certified back in February 4th. I think that was your birthday, right? It was a
My
great,
birthday, my solar return.
beautiful. And you took some time. It's now November 2025, and it's actually a nice opportunity to mention that when practitioners get certified, that they are encouraged to take their time in settling into the practice until they feel ready to come out and share their websites, their businesses. And there are actually over 20 practitioners now that are not listed on the website, yet they are practicing, many of them with just word of mouth or just taking their time as life happens. So it was kind of that experience for you too when you got certified in February, right?
It wasn't, I didn't sit down and say, oh, I better take some time. But
Yeah.
that's my life. My planets just kind of, and my guides just kind of moved me away from it. And then when it was time to come back out, I was in a 12th house kind of period, but it's good for integration. And
It's so
yeah,
important to honor that. I actually had that experience when I started practicing quantum healing hypnosis technique by Dolores Cannon. I get certified level 2, and then suddenly I just felt I had to clear the closet or clean whatever was left energetically. I just felt I had to do it. And it took, I think, 6 months. I was really working on a lot of inner stuff that was coming up. And then suddenly one morning I felt like, I feel I'm ready. Like, let's open the door. And literally within hours later, somebody emailed me, and it was a person that then opened door to so many more clients. So I'm really grateful that you honored your truth, waited, paused, and now you came back with wonderful energy. Brand new website, quantumsoulalignment.com. Such an amazing domain. I'm so happy you got it. You have your YouTube channel starting to share videos. We'll talk about some of the topics that you're passionate about. But before we go there, Kirk, I would love to hear about your spiritual awakening journey and how did you arrive to galactic astrology, soul reading modality?
well, I don't remember before I was 6 years old, but I was told that I was like sunshine. Like everybody I only ate vegetables. I'd spit out any meat, but I mean, and that's not a judgment. I'm just relating to when I got to this experience of this physical body. That's just how I reacted. But I'd run around I even saw videos of myself and I did not recognize that person. But, then trauma set in after 6 years old. And I want to be clear that all of this was designed by me and agreed to by these other parties. At the time, I didn't know that, but after coming through the trauma, working through it, and looking back objectively, I thank them for giving me those lessons because I would not be who I am right now if I didn't have those things occur. So everything's very intentional, I believe, not just for me, but when I do meditations and I go to the void in that space where we rest and think, almost like a womb. And a lot of people think of the void as just clear. I'm sorry, we're getting past what you asked me, but I'm kind of trying to explain my process. But in that void, there's a lot of energy and a lot of power. It's just not the same way people think. It's almost like a stillness, like a still pond, but there's this potential just vibrating, ready to get out. But it's a much quieter space than all the noise. And the noise is important too. That's all about the journey and source is you got moments of each, like the seasons. You have the dying season when things get quiet, and you have the spring when things start popping to life. But that's my flow, and it took a while because I had so much coming through me that people didn't quite understand me. So I learned to kind of sometimes keep it to myself, but I have a lot of Uranian energy, and it would just come out sometimes. And luckily, with certain aspects in my chart, I've always had protection. Not saying I didn't go to the edge of the void or of the drop, but there, for some reason, I designed it so I'd always have some support. Even with some of the really dark times that I had, there was something that would help me just as something in me that would pull me up, and I'm sure it was guides and everything as well. But it's not a journey I would wish for everyone because it wasn't easy, but I wanted to immerse myself and see all of the things that could happen to a human and without going too extreme. So I've had a lot of very challenging times, more than many, but there were many that had much more challenging times. And they're all just paths people choose. But I really wanted to experience this physical experience because I don't believe I've been here before. And I wanted to see what it's like to be a human. And I wanted to have all the physical, and I wanted to have, because when you're a watcher, most of the time, understanding and viewing different events that happen in the universe, you may not feel the trauma, but you can see it. And it's a different kind of compassion from that viewpoint, from the eagle eye viewpoint. Um, but being here, you really get a feeling for how it feels. Like beyond just the support and holding space, you actually are in it and you're feeling that pain, that fear, that trauma, that separation from source. And that's the only thing that gets people nervous or fearful is that feeling of separation. But we chose it so that we could experience being away from source and exploring ourselves. And am I going way too off?
No, not at all. You're going in a good
Okay.
flow and it's making sense. Keep going. It's all right because these are all
Okay.
such important topics.
I
And
just think it's important when I'm talking about my journey to give people that inspiration that they can do it too.
yes,
And I want them to know that I didn't know I was protected during these times, but that was because I set it up that way. Some people may have, I had lost many friends along this journey, and I'm not saying they were not protected, but they decided to end at a certain time in a certain way to experience that type of ending, whether it was traumatic or peaceful. And we all make our choices. And if we understand those choices by going through the chart and working with somebody who can help us be a reflection, because I did not do well when people kept trying to help and save me. When they backed off and said, "You're on your own," and got fed up, I they said, "We'll be here if you're ready to do it when you're ready to do it." And I did. But I think that's very important, is knowing when to, well, I think extending a hand of support is always the best way in holding space. Trying to heal like the Pleiadians did when they got their planet destroyed. They wanted to force healing and help on somebody. And Julia talks about this in her videos. So if you go back and watch some of her history videos on the galactics. But Alan Watts talks a lot about it too. People leaving me to my own, it's hard and it hurts them, but it helped me because I had to pull that power from within and choose to come back on my own.
it's inspirational to accept the darkness as much as the light in such a graceful way as you're demonstrating. I really appreciate it. When you got to learn and practice Reiki, I see on your practitioner's profile that for over 30 years you have been assisting with Reiki, energy healing, craniosacral therapy, crystals, herbal. When did that journey start? And
Well,
even
I always liked playing music and stuff as a kid. Well, I enjoyed acting and all the arts, and I wrote a lot of poetry and when I was younger and played the piano, learned synthesizer, all these different, tried to play every kind of, a lot of instruments, and but writing was my big thing. And I love Dungeons and Dragons. I love Star Wars. I played Luke Skywalker out in the forest when I was about 7 years old, right after I saw the movie, and I knew it was had to be real somewhere or something like it. So to me, it wasn't like an illusion. It was like, okay, this may not be exactly what happened, but this stuff is real somewhere. So I always knew, but I kept it to myself after I noticed people just were not really interested. And that's okay though, because it brought me more into my Saturnian energy of being physically here, because that's part of why I came here, is to spread messages maybe and to help heal others and help them transform. But I had to go through that process myself, and that required having traumas to release that feeling of completely having a safety net and connected to source. So losing that, I had to do a lot of it on my own and see how people here had to do it. So unless you experience it, reading from books sometimes. I think people have that experience when they go to a doctor or psychologist. If they've just read about it, but they don't have any family or their own personal experience, they don't really have an idea of how you feel.
Mm.
So I kind of got myself into a lot of dark situations because my family wasn't, they were, pretty supportive. My dad was challenging, but that's actually when things shifted, and I'll get there. Um, it's just that even if you don't have a bad, like horrible things going on with your family, you might go out on your own and choose to find a lot of trauma. Because if that's your path, you're going to find it. Like I said, everything's intentional. And I realize that when I do meditations, and I'm not telling everyone to have that perspective. I just hear it from a lot of my fellow practitioners that I speak with on a weekly basis and collaborators. They all say the same thing, is that when they hear all these hypnotherapy, when they have clients, they all seem to see it just sounds like it's all just very much intentional. I won't say everything's planned to a T, but everything's meant to happen. Even the downfall of humanity, it's not some dark thing that some really powerful people just instituted because they're evil. It was designed to happen. And now we're coming back out. And there's nothing wrong with that place either. We're just moving to a different octave because we're ready. But that doesn't mean it's better or less. I mean, the rocks are beautiful forces of nature and they don't vibrate fast. So everybody's saying about ascension. What is ascension? Okay, you're moving to a higher dimension, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're better than others. It just means that you're at a different frequency. So you're just done with playing at this over here. So you want to change. You're changing from reggae to opera. I don't know. It's just a different octave. So I sometimes get a little weird about those terms when I watch videos, and I love to hear so many perspectives, but I'm glad to hear we're moving away from ascension and higher, lower, and they're sometimes important. But light and dark, I love what's behind me because this is Fomalhaut, and it shows you that light and dark isn't always what people think. It's not just good and evil. It's just polarity of colors, and you can be anywhere on that spectrum. Most of us are not on one side or the other. But getting back to my story, um, learning all that creativity, and then I decided that being myself when I started MC rather than playing other roles in plays was much more satisfying because I could use my own sense of humor. I could let things come through to introduce people, to make, you know, show their strengths and everything and make them feel good before they came out and had to do whatever they were going to do. And then the performing thing kind of just fell away, and I really just wanted to focus on healing. And my dad passed away when I was 22, and he was military and German, so he was very strict. That would be where I was talking about the supportive family, but there were times where he's very domineering. And I just want people to understand why I love different perspectives, because even my brother and I, when we talk about how we grew up and our perspective of just my father, it's completely opposite. I was terrified of him half the time, and my brother thought he was a hero. So
Mm.
it's your relationship, and it's how you relate to things. So I love to talk to all my friends because they all have different perspectives, and I don't pick one and say it's better. I just say, wow, what a beautiful tapestry all my friends make together. It's just different parts of the picture, like the elephant. You got the five blind men and the elephant, and one says it's a trunk, one says it's a wall, or one says it's a fire hose. So it's all about perspectives and understand that other people have theirs and they're all correct. It doesn't mean you have to like it. It just means that to them it is correct. And I'm not trying to be weird about, for those that might be conservative or liberal, whatever you are on the spectrum, just understand that if you look and see why some people might feel or look at things a different way, you might not be so angry at them. And a lot of times it's a trigger for you because there's something within me that might be, I need to look at, which is why some people get very upset with watching things like narcissistic people and celebrities, because there's a part of them that is a little narcissistic, and they're trying to understand through watching others, because that's all we do is understand ourselves through watching others. It doesn't mean they're upset. Well, they can be obsessive with it, But the important thing is eventually when people do that, that they come back to seeing why, how it applies to them and how they can change. Because once you look at your chart or even just have even Akashic record readings, whatever, however tools that people feel, I've explored many. And I found that when I was ready to look at myself really hard, it was always hard to take a compliment for me, and other people, it's the opposite. But I really learned to love myself more when I found out who I really am. And it's empowering because once I learn who I am and what I do that's not serving myself or others, it's much easier to change because I can't change for anyone else. I can only, if I try to change for the world and what other people tell me to do, it doesn't work. If I say, oh, this is all about me and I can change this, I can't change them, but I can change me. And that's very empowering. And I find that then I don't have problems with a lot of people. Doesn't mean I don't get triggered once in a while and have to remind myself, you know, we are human beings and that's why we're here. We're not experiencing perfection and we didn't come here to do that. We came to evolve into being better. Oh, when my dad passed when I was 22, it was almost a relief, but a sad, very, very sad too. And it wasn't a relief just because I didn't hate him. I learned it was just a very complicated relationship. And when he passed, I shortly after my mom was getting some touch energy healer to come just work on her because she was a mess. And so I met the woman one time. She said, "Your hands are very hot. You're either a writer or a healer." And I said, "Well, I've done the writing. Why don't I learn about healing?" And I was already working at a new age metaphysical shop, which had crystals and readers and stuff. So I thought, okay, my friend that worked at the shop got somebody to attune me to Reiki, and then they walked me through the whole process of the training for traditional Usui. But they also said I ran different energies, and I started playing with it from there. And I taught a class and just casual. Um, and from there, it just kind of started branching out to body work. So I learned all about the body, and it was helpful later on. Craniosacral, where you learn all about the brain, nervous system. So it's, I thought my journey was, I was some flaky guy who just couldn't make up his mind, but all these things built. And now I can look back and I look at the cosmos and I say, wow, that nebula or that part of this universe that they took a picture looks just like an ear, it looks just like this, or it looks like the human brain. And as above, so below really does fit. And just having that medical knowledge, I'm not saying I'm a doctor, but we had to learn parts of the body and the nervous system and all that. So I don't judge my journey anymore. I felt like I was lost because a lot of people find their path when they're very young and they do it, but I wasn't meant to. Like I said, I haven't experienced this physical form on Gaia before, so I wanted to really experience the beauty of it and the physical sensation, because even though it's very ecstatic feeling when you're outside of this human form, there's a lot you can't experience until you're in it as well. So it's just playing with different experiences, and
It feels like you had
it's
many
not easy when you choose to come here.
Yeah, it feels like you had many lifetimes in just this one life. There are so many segments of so many different experiences, but what a beautiful, grounded, neutral perspective. And one more thing that I want to point out is your acceptance of many different perspectives. And I wonder, is it the great attractor on your vertex where your greatest evolutionary points occurred in times when you were exposed to many different perspectives, like that it keeps propelling you forward. So you may have through experience found to really appreciate it and see it for the valuable enrichment to the whole, right?
I mean, that is also the house of affairs or
Mm.
creativity and love affairs. And I did have with my sun and Venus in my seventh house, which is one-on-one relationships, whether it's friendships or partners. I did have several, and I learned from all of them because they weren't all easy. It's and when I first looked at my chart, I thought, oh heck no, I'm so fed up with like one-on-one love relationships that. But now I've accepted it. Wow, I learned a lot from them though, and they were very powerful.
Mm.
because I get along with friends pretty well and, others. So that was a way I learned. But now I've been okay being celibate for quite a while, since 2016, just because it's time to focus on me now. It's okay to be the Leo now. Before, my Aquarius opposition to my ascendant was no, no, no. We can't try to be who we are or shine or whatever, because it's wrong and it's not being humble. But now I'm like, well, I can be who I am and still be humble. And it's not about leading or trying to be above others. It's about the lion that really sits there and just shows that he feels good about himself, and he's inspiring others to be that way as well. It's not about leaving anyone behind or making myself less than others. And I'm sure a lot of people out there feel that way, that there's just different kinds of people, and I don't judge those people. They're here to experience that. And without those people, we would not have a catalyst to want to be better ourselves. We would just probably go along with it. So it's important to have the darkness there to show us that there is a better way, and keeps us pushing to go, wow, I can do better. And I have some of those traits, and I don't like that. So if I see them doing it and it feels awful to me, then wow, if I'm doing it, I really can change that within myself. It's all about evolving.
As we come back to your journey, when was the time when you felt the call to start exploring astrology? And was it directly straight into galactic astrology, or tell me a little bit about that time when you discovered your star alignments?
I did forget to mention, since I was young, I've been looking up at the sky. But
Yeah.
yeah, I did start getting into astrology from a young age. I don't know why. I just that, and looking at reading the lines in the hand, palmistry, and colors, and light therapy, and sound. It just never took off for me. I just kind of learned bits and pieces. And I think right before after my dad died, I went to Sonoma, because I lived up in Sacramento at the time, and in Napa Valley area, and there was a woman who wrote a book called Dolphins, ETs, and Angels. Her name was Gina Lake. I don't know if she's still doing much anymore, but she read my chart, and I went up there to see her in person. And it was interesting, but like I said, it didn't stick because it wasn't time. It just happened 2024 in around March. I think Akinar was doing something in my chart, but I didn't even know of Akinar at the time. And now I find out it's conjunct my North Node. But I had kind of been in a dark place because I got let go from my job at uh, Garden Center, which I wasn't happy at anyway. There's a loyalty bone in me, and I'll stick with something because I also have Saturn in Taurus in my 10th house, which means I work hard and I'm in it for the long haul. And I usually get thrown out of jobs. So I, I've done massage for many years, but it wasn't always full time until like 2017. Then I quit, and there was some dark stuff that went on, and I was in a car with my friend, and we were doing flooring with our stuff in a storage room, but we lived out of the car, which I'm grateful, because we weren't out on the street. But this was in Long Beach, and it was, I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't fun, but now that I'm done with it and I look back, and he passed a couple years later, or a year and a half after I moved home, and he moved home, and I guess he went off and got into heroin again or something, and ended up ODing. So, um, but after that, I got here and I healed, and things started moving in a different direction, but it was still building again. And then after I lost that job, though, 2003, it was a lot of unsurety and working at temp jobs. And then finally, I had a lull in the depression stuff. It was like I started just watching YouTube videos on spirituality and ascension and all this stuff, and just watching what different people said. And it's funny now that the same people I was getting really into then, I've kind of moved away from. Not that just my energy is in a different place, but it was great at the time. And it, all of a sudden I found Ursula and Josh Phoenix, and Fomalhaut was like one of the first things I saw. And that's in my draconic chart on my sun. And I couldn't figure out the connection looking at my regular Placidus natal chart. And then I went and looked at draconic. for those who don't know, draconic chart is energetically to me, and others say the same thing. It feels like because it starts at 0 degrees of Aries, which is where on the wheel for everyone, it's where we believe that it's the 12th house is where you kind of move through different experiences, and Aries is where you come in as like the infant. It's where you come through the womb and into physicality again. So looking at it from that perspective, it's your chart. All the planets are in this are at the same degrees from each other, but you just move the chart wheel towards the north node to 0 degrees of Aries. So doing that, I found that my sun is conjunct in Pisces, conjunct Fomalhaut, which explained a lot. And this is why I love exploring charts. And this is why, I'm not telling people to go and keep going back, but if you find someone that you like, it's great. But if you want to experience other people, you don't have to do like a hairdresser. If you want to hear other people's perspectives on your chart, you can, all the people I collaborate with, they're also graduates of the class or they're getting ready to. It's great because they all do different things too. And none of us are trying to take clients or anything from each other. We all support each other. And it's just a beautiful community of we've done the work and we just happen to be very able to present this to others to help them through their journey. And so it's not about trying to get clients or trying to make money from it, because I lost my passion for body work, even doing it for 35 years. I wasn't glad that I ended up where I was on the street in the car with my friend. However, I was so tired of touching bodies, and a lot of them were unappreciative. If you're a school teacher, you get a lot of kids, but it's that few that really want to do the work that make it worth it. But when I stopped seeing that happen, I just thought, nah, it's time. But all these little things that I've learned along the way helped me to get here. And now I can use it all with the Galactic Astrology. And I know some of my friends that have graduated aren't using Galactic Astrology as their main tool. But for me, even if I didn't do a lot of astrology, when I saw Ursula and Julia in the videos, the way they explained everything, and galactically, I was very connected, and that was the way I came through, was through all the galactic talk. It wasn't so much the astrology, what do you call it, the astrology instruction. It was like, oh, when you're talking about Sirius and Pleiades, I'm all in. And the connections, and then all of a sudden the 4 points, the four royal stars, and then the super galactic points, which I have 3 of them in my chart, and they're very close to my personal planets. So, well, one's Pluto, which is generational, but I probably came here a lot with the polarities, not just of my Leo and Aquarius, but also the dipole and Shapley, which I have my Jupiter expansion planet in Shapley, which is like the womb where everything condenses to come to life. And I have the planet of structure, Saturn, conjunct my dipole repeller, which is an expansive void. So it's all about balance for me. And I'm going to be doing a video. I did a short video on YouTube about that. I'm going to be doing another one exploring those. And I'm not the only one. There are plenty of people exploring it. I just have my own perspective to add. And I didn't know there were many people looking into it before. But now that I'm connecting with it a lot more, I find that it's nothing is ever one person. There's always several people that are given that information to spread it. I mean, nothing is kept like secret organizations people hear about from the past and hiding things that's not part of our future. Many people are given that information to spread at the same time. Just takes time to get to the whole collective.
Beautifully said. What was it like for you to start experiencing doing readings for others? Did you surprise yourself as a channel, seeing your North Node in Pisces on Archana and seeing all those beautiful galactic points on you? And, you really just have this flow that just comes through you, and it comes through your heart. Like it's felt that it comes through your heart. What was it like when you started bringing information through for your clients?
Well, I definitely noticed the difference when I get in the way. I, sometimes I don't have a choice. It just comes through, and I have a hard time stopping. So I always tell people to let me know that they're free to cut me off because sometimes the flow just happens, and they usually don't mind, but I give them permission to stop me if they need me to slow down, because my Mercury is conjunct the Ring Nebula in Lyra. So I get floods. It's not the same as a galactic center, but it has that kind of energy where stuff will just, and it's not me. I mean, it is me because we're all source. However, it's not coming through the Kirk Ryan Brandon that's sitting right here. So I'm not going outside myself. I'm just backing away and I'm allowing it to work with me. Because when Kirk thinks, it's not always going to come out the right way.
I love that our practitioners are completely unique. They each add their own unique flavor to the Quantum Soul Guidance sessions. What do you feel most passionate about focusing on when clients come to you? Are you starting to notice a pattern to what is your expertise or passion? Where do you feel called to assist people when they come to you?
Well, it's definitely about transformation. We're all transforming at different times in different ways. Some people do huge transformations, like I have many times. So that would be called like eighth house kind of stuff. And it's for those that don't know, eighth house is usually ruled by Scorpio, and it's about going really deep and then coming out of that deep with a different perspective. So like a deep dive and coming out like the phoenix or the butterfly when it goes in its cocoon. People think, oh, it's just stagnant. No, the butterfly inside the cocoon is doing a lot of transforming. That's what we call alchemy. So when you're alchemizing, you're doing, and you're planning on making a change, but then somehow just in that process, it just usually happens when you're not expecting it because you do the work and all of a sudden you're changing and you didn't even realize that the work you're doing is finally moving on its own. I mean, some people might be more in tune with it, but for me, I just go with what I feel and I try to be conscious of how I am behaving in the world and to others and to myself and be mindful. And then, when I start getting impatient, I just calm myself down and say, oh, just be in the now. And then all of a sudden, I wake up and it's like something has changed, or I start feeling that there's something moving, and it's interesting. But it's important, like I said, to have the void space, at least for me, because I've connected many times in hypnotherapy sessions with a void that feels very much like dipole, but it's comfortable to me. The darkness is much more soothing. It's like being in the ocean deep, scuba diving, where you have a lot of quiet. Um, but it's just like being held so that you can process. You can still feel that there's energy there and that you're being supported, but it's not so much of that da 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 and the loud energy coming at you. It's where you can kind of cocoon before you come back out. So this last time was not so bad. After I got my certificate, I kind of pressed ahead with a bunch of little articles on Facebook about different connections, and then I stopped. All of a sudden, I didn't even know why. I just got very into just being here. And I was very aware of all that stuff. I just didn't go out with the stars and meditate every night. But I was okay with that. And when I realized it, I thought, okay, but it's not as severe as when I was going through trauma and needed that break because that break was forced. This was more like it was intentional.
Yeah,
So,
you know what? There was a lot of energy transformation occurring on the planet between February 2025 and just past summer. There were a lot of light workers that suddenly had that pause for no obvious reason. It was just like
oh,
hold,
yeah.
wait, just be. Just we were just be. That's how we were supporting the
I think
collective.
it's this
Yeah.
anticipation too, this excitement that something big is coming. So it's good that you set up the summit for January because it feels like a lot of things are going to push forward. For me, my solar return this coming year is going to be crazy. My north nodes are aligning. My sun will be in the opposite spot of the chart. So it was going into twilight and it's going to be coming out. It's going to be at the opposite position coming up into the sunlight again. So it's like I took all these 55 years to go through the shadow and experience a lot of things. And there was a lot of light in there. I don't want people to think that. It's not like I was just traumatized all my life. I had some great moments. It's just that lingering, if anyone's ever experienced it, that lingering self uh, being unsure of yourself or always being a little insecure or even feeling the depression coming on and off, on and off. But to me, depression only came about when I wasn't connecting with myself.
Yeah, you certainly had your fair share of initiations that are making you this beautifully, deeply compassionate, grounded guide for others. So, what a gift to then come to you. You can meet people wherever they are on their journey because of the richness of your own experience in this life, right?
Yeah, my goal is to empower people, not to save them, not to fix them. I want to show them, help them see using intuition and their chart. But to me, the chart is a tool for me, like tarot cards are for somebody else, or a dowsing. I when I look at a chart and I start to talk about it, I start to see connections. And I'm not talking about all the line aspects. I'm talking about when I look at Julia's galactic report and I don't focus on the lines there. It's almost like it is like people, but they don't communicate the same way. I love talking to planets and connecting with them and stars. But if you see how they look at each other on the chart and how even in transits, you can say, oh, okay, so I'm not going to say that's an opposition. What I'm going to say is they're looking out for each other. They're keeping each other in check.
I love that.
So my Saturn and my Jupiter are keeping each other in check. Jupiter's like, okay, I'm not going to get carried away, but don't you be too strict up there. So
I love that. I always look for better feeling perspective too, whatever is helpful. So I love that practical astrology lens
it's not
side
overly positive.
going
It's
to,
just it's being realistic in a light that shows you can evolve, not saying, oh, this malefic planet's affecting you and you're going to have this trouble the rest of your life. It's saying, wow, look at how these planets are connected with each other, and let's see how we can empower ourselves and work through it.
yes. So congratulations to this absolutely amazing, gorgeous website, quantumsoulalignment.com, Kirk Ryan Brandon, quantum healer,
And that
Galactic
picture
Astrology.
was
Yep,
it's a blend of a butterfly, a phoenix, and a swan. They're all very transformative
it's
creatures.
absolutely gorgeous. Yes, it's very intentional. You can feel the level of intention that went into it. Embody your divinity, transformational soul guidance, and you can request a consultation and book your galactic astrology session here. Absolutely beautiful. You also have social media channels.
Facebook,
Mhm.
Divine Collective, and YouTube, Divine Collective.
We will include the links for that in the video description.
Yeah.
If there was a message that you have for people based on everything you've lived through, the way you felt through 2025, now we are recording this on November 14th, 2025. What do you feel like energetically as we are closing this year and heading into 2026? What is your message as we start closing?
It's go time, people. So,
I love that.
um, but hang in there. Even if, sorry, I had to say it because all my friends are saying the same thing, and I've been saying it since last year. I've been saying my guides are telling me it's go time, but they always tell me that way ahead of time. So I kind of try to keep it to myself, but now it is ready to go time because they'll tell me a year ahead of time, it's go time soon. But soon to them is like a year away.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I would say that you're never in a spot that is too tight, that if you come to understand yourself that you can't work with it and make, well, not to be silly, but make lemonade out of lemons. I mean, it's that doesn't work if you really love lemons, but you can take something that feels, you can bring the lotus flower to life from the swamp. How's that? You don't have to just stay in the swamp and be under it. You can grow those roots and make that beautiful flower come up from it.
I love that.
There's always hope.
Yes. I can sense your big compassionate heart, Kirk, and I would it be a good tip for people who resonate with you when they come to you to take time to share with you where they're at in their journey so that it can help you zoom in on precisely what is best information to support them at that time, right? Because you have that Piscean North Node on
Yeah.
Achenar star, like you can really just completely dissolve into oneness, and especially with those super cosmic points connections, you can dissolve and tap into the quantum field and receive so much information that will just come true. But if you can get that pin of focus through your clients if they share where they're at. Do you like that, or do you prefer to just have a blank sheet?
Focus is always good. And
Yeah,
no, I can get so out there that it's always helpful. I mean, but when I look at charts and I try to formulate it, like when I write, it becomes very clear when I write, but I don't always want to write. So when I speak to people, I do videos and I share the video with them so they can watch it over and over or anytime. And I do offer for them to be interactive with me because it's almost like it is channeling. It's just I'm not closing my eyes. So when people need to, ask questions while I'm doing it, it helps them to, I want them to help me focus to what they need. And I can do that on my own when I'm researching the chart ahead of time because sometimes I'll spend hours and it's not a problem because it's to me it's a joy. I've I've worked through all these other healing modalities and they felt good and kind of aligned, but they were not like this. Now I can use all of that with this astrology and really express my own passion and joy without feeling like it's work.
Beautiful. Thank you for following your joy, following your passion, for being here, for coming out now at this very particular time. I'm excited about our Quantum Soul Guidance Summit in January and featuring your take on these cosmic giants. You have such a beautiful perspective on dipole, repeller, and Shapley, seeing it so active in your own chart, and just so much more, so many more gems that I'm sure we will see coming through you in the coming months and years. Thank you, Kirk, also for being such a beautiful, valuable member of our community. It brings me so much joy seeing how many beautiful soul connections you've made with many of our community members. I'm really, really grateful for you being here with us, sharing your light and love. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode. So much love to you.